Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are and whatever time it is that you choose to watch this. The show we've been waiting to do, the show that will hopefully break down doors, open dialogue, and set the record straight, I think, Dave, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be really good for everyone to watch and, have a big understanding between a lot of things that I think everyone needs to have a good discussion about.
Exactly. So we've got a certain person that will be coming on very, very soon, and he is well and truly stepping into the lion's den. So let's get it going. Okie dokie, let's bring on the man of the moment. I'll bring him on right now. Martin, how are you, sir?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm very good. Thanks very much for having me on.
Well, first of all, from myself, Dave, Ben, Ireland, and everyone associated at Tottenham on tour, like I said, I chucked a Hail Mary in trying to get you on, and you thankfully picked it up and went for the touchdown. So this is a show that is obviously, I'm surprised it's happening, but delighted at the same time. As people will see, and Martin knows all about this, there is no editing on this. This is straight as we have broken this down into quite a few topics and then the questions that people have submitted. So, Dave, I'll hand over to you because you are taking over for the first subject.
Yep. Do you want to bring it up?
I will bring it up right now. So the first section is what, why, and who are the trust? Over to you, David, sir.
Yeah, so personally for me, I've always looked at the trust as this secret entity type of situation where there's not much that you can find out about the trust, who are the trust, what the trust's about, and why the trust came about. And for me, I'd love to know more about that, about the behind the scenes type of thing, because like I've mentioned before and things like that, where when I look at a website and you look at the trust website, it's very bland in a sense. There's not much on there to give you a full breakdown of everything about the trust. There's little bits and things like that, but for me, there's not a lot there. So personally, from your point, Martin, for someone who's a bit ignorant to everything about the trust, who, what, why is the trust?
No, it's a good question, I think, because it's one of those things that maybe we go about our work as volunteers and maybe we think people are aware of what we do and why we're doing it. So the trust was formed in about sort of 2000, 2001. We are the democratically elected voice of Tottenham Hotspur supporters, if you like. So we've been co-opted. We've got the club have agreed to meet with us at least twice a year and see us as the voice of Spurs supporters that they should consult with on a number of issues, and we'll come to whether or not they do consult with us at the moment later on. But that's basically where it comes from. And we're all just volunteers. So I'll go to my background. I used to work in comms and media, and I was a newspaper editor about 10 years ago when I got involved in this. And it was just because I was editing a local newspaper in North London, and we were doing some work on the trust. And when I left, the co-chairs then, who were Captain Martin, said, did I fancy joining? And I, at the time, I've got 3 boys, as I mentioned and previously, and I was concerned that they might not be able to, get into the new stadium as easily. I was worried about concessions in the new stadium, things like that. So I thought, I'll put my money where my mouth is, and I'll do it. Stood for election, and that's the joy. Anybody can become a member. You don't have to pay. You can be a member for free. Anybody can stand for election, and we have an AGM. Where we discuss sort of matters. We do a survey. We just completed our survey actually a few days ago, and that's our survey that really informs what we're going to do for the next year. So that's where we've asked our members a lot of questions, and all Spurs fans, and then that gives us the mandate for what they want us to do, and that's pretty much what we do. We ask Spurs supporters and our members in particular for a mandate, and then we go off. So if ticketing is the main issue or ticket prices, we set it with our members, and then they give us that mandate to go off and take those issues up with the club.
Great. Just another thing on that as well. Obviously, like when I look at the trust, like I said about the website and things like that, there's not much of a background between everyone. I always had this like kind of weird thought about the trust that it's all people in suits sitting in a boardroom, you know, eating cucumber sandwiches, you know, that type of situation. Because, like I said on the website, there isn't much to actually break down about the trust. Do you think that's something the trust should look into the future about adjusting and being a little bit, well, I wouldn't say like, you know, open. I don't mean like a video of every single trust member, you know, tell them about the background of it. But do you think the trust should look at making it a bit more accessible for fans like myself who have this weird idea of the trust, just to break down that little bit there for the future?
100%, Dave. I think it's something we've got to look at as a board, maybe that we've become maybe a bit set in our ways about what we're doing and how we're doing it, and maybe not really realising how or people's interpretation of what the trust maybe was and what it is now. You know, I've met a load. I'm a South Stand season ticket holder. I've been a Spurs fan all my life. I go with my boys. I went with my dad. I went with my father-in-law. I went with my mates, and I meet lots of fans who come up to me and go, "Oh, I know you. I saw you on Sky Sports or whatever, and you're on the trust, and I've had 6 pints of neck oil, and we're having a chat, and they go at the end of it, you're all right, you are," and it's like, oh, it's like, yeah. So I'm like, maybe it's because I've had 6 pints of neck oil, but and I know we were talking about this, and we'll come on to the work we do, but just to give you an idea of the way it works sometimes, when we sent the statement out last week about the match day tickets, you know, Spurs obviously sent their statement out on just before the England-Denmark game, didn't they? Nobody was surprised by that. We had a statement ready. We'd had a statement ready for a few days, but obviously as they did it, just as the England-Denmark game was kicking off, as I said, I used to work in comms and marketing. I left because I had a stressful job, tried to set up my own business. And I also set up a business with my son where we've got our own pub, and we work hard. And I was actually in the pub at the time. I wasn't working because I'm not daft. I thought I'm not going to work during an England game, but I've got staff and I'm busy. So as that news broke, my phone's just blown up. I had to run into the cellar to find our statement, to stick it on Twitter, to get it out. And then at the other end, Jo, who loads it onto our website, she was in the pub. She had to run out of the pub and go somewhere to get a laptop fired up so she could get it online. You know, we just want to watch the England game. You know, that's what, it's the way it is. And that's probably what it's like being on the board of the Supporters Trust as a volunteer. You know, we don't do it to get any thanks. We do it because we care about the club and we care about other supporters. And you know, sometimes it can feel a bit like a thankless task, but also we've got to be aware that maybe people might not know what we're about and why we do it, and maybe, you know, through these channels, we can make people more aware of who we are and why we do it, and what goes on behind the scenes.
No, well, that's great.
I've got one thing to say on this, boss, and it was my fault as well, because someone had to have a talking to me, a friend of mine, because when I hear the word Supporters Trust, forget what club it is. Obviously, for us, it's Tottenham. I look at that being it as a reflection of what's going on the football pitch. Like, if we're angry at a manager or angry at lack of spending or angry, obviously, at the board, the word Supporters Trust to me means, right, you listen to all such. But obviously, someone put me back and said, listen, Brian, you're coming at this the wrong way, and we're going to my wrong ways a lot more. But also some of the right ways that I see it. But a lot of people may not know the work you do, obviously, off the footballing matters. So do you want to quickly mention about other things that you do behind the protest and whatever? What things the Trust do organise for fans?
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot with the Spurs Foundation. We do a lot to raise charity. So we sadly lost two really lovely guys to cancer in the last couple of years, Kevin and Pete, who did a lot. Like, Kevin was behind the Cycle on You Spurs. He had a meeting with Martin Yeo, and that's how that all came about. And they raised money for prostate cancer. Pete was our secretary and started the sort of walks around the Tottenham tours, and did a lot of work with the Antwerp Arms. So there's the community side. We try and do a lot with food banks. Now, we know there's a lot of fans who can't afford games and also struggling to make ends meet. So we've got a big social media following, so we try and use that to our advantage to support charities. We do a lot on the governance side, obviously, whether it's meetings with the club on their governance or our governance, whether it be the fan advisory board when that was being set up. We do, obviously, ticketing is a massive part of our work, but we have regular ticketing meetings with the ticketing manager at the club and others. And I have to say, we've got a really good relationship with club staff. The club staff are very good. We have a really good, like Ian at in the ticketing office, Jake, who's a supporter liaison officer. They're really good people, and they care about the club as well, and they care about fans. So we have a good relationship with them. We do. If somebody gets thrown out of the stadium incorrectly, or somebody has a ticketing issue, or they have a problem selling their ticket or getting their loyalty points issues, they'll email us and we step in. And we have those direct contacts with the club. We can say, look, this has happened here or that's happened there. And the club are good. I mean, I'll give credit where credit's due. The club are good at that kind of stuff. They're good at helping supporters out. And, even when you'll know this, fans who went to Spain to watch Spurs, Barcelona, and others, fans who were attacked by those baton wielding stewards and things like that. Yep. We liaised. We had people there at the time who took them to one side, and we tried to help them. Dortmund, when we were having trouble getting into the stadium, we were able to go and find the Spurs supporter liaison officer, say, come here, look, we need to get fans in the stadium as soon as possible. So there's just a lot that goes on. And sometimes, if you're particularly away games, if something's going wrong and you're there, you kind of find yourself embroiled in this. My kids are kind of going, Dad, let's just get in the ground. You're like, give me 10 minutes. I just need to sort this out. So it can be a bit, sometimes you're like, bloody hell, why do I do this? But there's just a whole load of frameworks, a lot of work that we do across the board, really, at every aspect of it. Security, stewarding. We've been in the during the old little safety pod at the old White Hart Lane above South Stand. We were invited to go into that to just watch a game with the stewards and the policing. So things like that. And we go to the safety advisory group meetings with the council before Arsenal and Chelsea. We go to Metropolitan Police meetings before those games, and we find out that you're going to be using, facial recognition camera, thing like that. We just say we're just going to make fans aware of it because there might be some fans who are against it. So it's just things like this, just liaising and making sure people are up to date on it.
There you go. So it's don't shoot the messenger a lot of the time, obviously, because like I said, I when someone took me aside and said they do a lot of work for people with disabilities and all the things that are going on with the new stadium, the access and everything. So there are other things that they do. But now, guys, we're going to start getting into some of the big topics. And the first one we're going to do is the four questions. And I've got to admit, I've said publicly, and in a lot of ways, I stand by what I say, that it seems with the trust that when discussions about the ownership come up, it's when the people that I proudly stand with have started making ripples, whether it be people don't think it's the big numbers on the protest, but which we'll get to, but on social media, obviously the hashtag Levy Out and everything goes. So when I heard that the trust had issued these four questions, I went, like, here we go. They piped up. Let's see what happens. Obviously, the famous words that were mentioned, a strongly worded email, which is probably to the detriment, and you probably get sick and tired of it. But how did this come about, and how does it get facilitated and published and out so quickly?
So what we do is we get a huge number of emails on. So we've got THST official an info account that people email, and so what we did, this all happened. I'm just trying to look it up in terms of when it was. It was 2023. So it was in January, and we had like an ongoing dialogue with the club. This was at a time where things were going wrong, and there were a lot of people who were very, very concerned. One of the things that we always agreed we wouldn't do, we don't often get involved in on-field matters. So we kind of just stepped back. That was almost agreed before my time, before others' time. That was the people before us agreed we don't get involved in sort of on-the-field matters. But it became so concerning to sort of see us go from Mauricio Pochettino to Mourinho to Conte, or to Nuno to Conte. It was almost like, right, what is the strategy here? What is the transfer strategy? What is the managerial? Are we playing attractive football with a young dynamic, or then young dynamic coach with a young dynamic team, or are we now going for supposedly winners who are going to maybe, where we're going to see a turnover of playing staff that we like? So you're going to see the likes of Dele Alli leaving and others leaving and whatever else. So and we were getting asked that a lot by people. They were just saying, we just don't understand the strategy with the club. We don't understand the transfer decisions. We don't understand. There was a feeling when Mauricio Pochettino was in charge that we used to go out, we'd buy younger players and we'd watch them develop. So again, the likes of Dele Alli, Carl Walker, Danny Rose, Eric Dyer. That seemed to have gone. So that's strategy. So we were like, well, that was always what we thought was our strategy. Mm-hmm. Gareth Bale, it was probably one of our best signings in the Premier League era. Where did that go? Now all of a sudden we were signing players either who were, you look at Perisic and players like that who are maybe a bit older. You look at players like, I'm trying to think of the players that we brought in under Mourinho, like the Lo Celsos and the Ndombele, that was Poch. But you know what I mean? We were bringing in a different kind of player. And we were thinking, well, something's not adding up here. So what is the strategy? So we spoke to our members and we said, we're going to ask the club these questions. And that's what we did. We wanted to know, about what did the club see qualifying for Europe as more important than domestic trophies? Did the club see qualifying for the Champions League as more important than winning a trophy or challenging for trophies? Because people have become quite fed up as well with seeing, we're paying tickets to go, we're paying our prices to go abroad, and you're seeing us struggle against, NS Mura in the Europa Conference League in a tournament we could win. So there were just a lot of questions that we had about the on-field strategy, and that's where that came from. And it was a mixed bag in terms of the response we received, but we felt it was really important to say to the club, there's a lot of concern about the road we're going down, which is obviously, you look back now, and Daniel Levy's admitted that signing Mourinho and Conte and Nuno were a mistake, although they wouldn't admit that at the time, So it's kind of gone full circle.
Yeah, because the thing I want to say on that as well, because obviously I started off just saying about the trust and saying how I thought the supporters trust meant, and it just goes to show. I mean, who decides that you don't need to drop names? That's not what I'm asking for you. That we're not going to touch footballing matters. This isn't of concern to the trust itself, because if I was a member or I was on the board, I'd be like, it's got absolutely everything. Obviously, we can't have an effect like a manager, a chairman, a player. But I would be like, why isn't football matters related on such a? We're part of the supporters trust of a football club. So what? Like I said, don't drop names or say. But how did it get that the trust as a whole decided right, or the vote was swung in that favour that footballing matters is off the table?
Yeah, it's always been that way in my time. So the truth is, I don't actually know. I came on board. We used to have these board-to-board meetings when I first joined, where Daniel Levy would be there, Donna Cullen, and a few of the execs, and sometimes managers. And we'd have a discussion, and we were able to ask questions on the transfer window and things like that. But really, we could ask on-field matters. We could say, but look, what happened in certain games, or what happened with that signing? Jack Grealish, for example, was a signing that I brought up in a board-to-board meeting. Now, they would answer them, but really our remit was always about ticketing strategy, season ticket costs, the new stadium. That's certainly my time. Yep. Now, I think we're at a point as a trust where we could potentially look at that again and go, do we want to bring in on-field matters? Because it's probably now, apart from ticketing, it maybe is the burning issue. Because at this point, when Mauricio Pochettino was in charge and we were challenging for league titles, and we were like, well, we're happy to leave that with you guys. But then we've almost taken 10 steps back in the way we've recruited management, and we have brought that up. So I was on, I was interviewed a few times on the Conte interview where he threw his toys at the pram, the Paratisi suspension. So we did start to talk about on-field matters because we had to, but we don't really have a remit to bring that up with the club. So again, if Spurs fans, which is what we want to do, came together and would join the trust, which they can do for free, it's not money-making exercise, and said to us, we want you to talk to the club about on-field matters, that would give us a mandate. Because at the moment, our members are telling us they want us to discuss more the ticketing side of it, the senior citizen concession issues, food and drink in the stadium, things like that. So maybe, again, this is where I want us to get more members involved to set that mandate for us so we can go and have these conversations with the club.
Okay, so basically the more people, so let's just say 400 people join the trust on the back of this, just throwing a number out there. Yeah. And a lot of them said, right, I want to talk about football. I want football, or not obviously every game I want to break down, but the footballing matters that are of huge concern. So you're saying basically if 400 people just turned out and said, right, I want to talk about footballing matters, it would need to be listened to. And then obviously there's more power behind it, so to speak. Yeah,
well, we'd have a discussion with the club and say, well, look, this is what Spurs fans are telling us, this is what our members are telling us. So we want to add this as an agenda item to our discussion. So it's always, everything we do is set by our membership in terms of the mandate we have. When we called on the executive board to resign, which I know we'll come to later, when we called on them to resign, That was because we'd gone out and we consulted with our members and said, do you want us to ask them to resign? And the majority said, yes, we do. And we did that. And again, at the time when we did that, we also got a lot of stick from Spurs fans who didn't want us to do that. But that's just the nature of the job, isn't it? So it's but at that point we had a mandate from our membership. They said they've taken us into this European Super League. They've they've blindfolded us. They've done this behind our back, and we want them gone. That was the feeling at the point of the European Super League debacle. And we were like, we're with you. That's what we're going to do.
There you go. Dave, you have a question on this?
No question. I just want to say that during that lovely conversation between two, I have just become a member of the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust. Just to say how easy it is, literally a couple of minutes, jump on the website, put your details in, bang, there you go. Everything's there for you. So, I just thought I'd put that across. I'm now a member of the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters.
There you go. For one down, 399 to go. So we'll see. We will put the trust link and everything in here. So if you do want to join or want to know more, you can go onto their website and find out. Next subject we have is fairly recently. Obviously, now when we're talking here, we're talking the 6% that they announced, not this new one during Denmark, the original. And we've got this and Save Our Seniors in two separate sections because we thought it is two separate talking points.
Yeah.
Again, can you just let people know, because obviously they mentioned it got a lot of backlash. You came out, and I will say again, Martin, it's why I'm so happy you took the Hail Mary through to a touchdown, because all we get to hear from yourself and people is, like Dave alluded to, it's like an illusion that you're just these guys on the end of keyboards, or you're just these guys that are very closed off and only speak to mainstream media, so to speak, like Sky Sports and TalkSport and other things you've gone on. So I think this is breaking down doors to show people this is what happens, this is what goes ahead. How did you find out about it, first of all, happening, and then obviously speak about the reaction that you made and how we are with it since then?
Yeah, no worries. And just to say, in terms of talking to media, our grassroots sort of supporter podcast, YouTube channels, that's what we want to be on more than anything, because that's where you get to the fans. When you're on TalkSport and Sky Sports, you're talking to a variety of other supporters, and we want to talk to Spurs fans. So we had we always have a season ticket consultation meeting with the club. So I say consultation, this wasn't consultation. This is why we're probably where we are at the moment. We arranged a meeting. We had a Teams call with the club, with the ticketing manager and others. I think Don Cullen came to either that one or a subsequent one, and they told us that the season tickets were going up. Now, I'm not going to go into what we were initially told, but what we were told initially was worse than the 6%. And we pushed back as strongly as we could. We said, you can't do this. And look, what I'm happy to say on this is what we were seeing at the time was that they were talking about a price, a block amount of an increase rather than a percentage increase. And that's going to target those in the I won't say, you can't say cheaper seats because there aren't any, but you know what I mean? They're less expensive seats. So you know what I mean? And a percentage increase across the board is the same. So we wanted to get stretch pricing. We want to see the corporate areas gone, that if you're going to increase tickets, go for those that can afford it. We had consultation in terms of, they told us what was happening. We said, please don't do this. It's a cost of living crisis. Some fans are at breaking point. We know some fans have told us they've gone for...
Sorry, Martin, can I just ask you one thing, then I'm going to let you go. How long before it was announced are you made aware that there may be something? I don't want you to give anything you can't, but I mean...
No, I'm just trying to think. I think it's about 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay.
Because what then happens is, they tell us this is what's going to happen, and then we're told it's probably going to go out next week. We then hit back with our findings, and we had a statement, and we said to the club, this is what we're saying. They then came back with some changes, and it's backwards and forwards. And there's meetings, and again, just to the point Dave made about the way it works. I've got a day job. I run my own business, and funnily enough, when I started running my own business, I actually thought I'll have more time to do things like this. But obviously, when you're running your own business, as you guys probably know, it's your money. So taking time off to have like teams meetings with the club is like, bloody hell. Someone's got to do the work I was doing. I've got to pay them. So we were getting told, we're going to have a Teams call at 10 a.m. on Monday or 10 a.m. on Tuesday. We were doing this and that, and it was it was a lot of backwards and forwards. And then we realised very quickly that the club had made some changes following our request, but not a lot. And that's where we said to them, this isn't consultation. And then, funnily enough, the day it actually happened, I had a meeting at the Premier League on VAR. So I was going to Premier League actually, just all all supporters trust were invited with the FSA, the Football Supporters Association, to go to the Premier League to talk about VAR. I cannot stand VAR, so I was so looking forward to that meeting to tell them it was shite and please get rid of it. So I was looking forward to that. I'm on the train, heading there. I'm in and out of the tube, and then I get a message from the club saying we're about to release our season ticket statement. I'm just like, here we go again. Look, I brought my laptop with me, thankfully. I get off the train. I find a quiet point literally around the corner in an alleyway, round the corner from the Premier League headquarters, tether my laptop to my mobile and get our statement online and tweet it. Because at that point, I was the only one who had access to our website, because we were going through a website revamp, and I was the only one who had access. So I was the only one who could upload. And then you're going into the meetings. Then I'm in this VAR meeting. I'm getting messages from journalists saying, can you come on and have a chat with us? It was just, again, the timing for us was awful. And then we get the usual, as you say, Brian. Yep. And I get it, because I work in comms, another strongly worded statement. And it's true, we want to do more. We want to get to a point where the club is giving us proper consultation and they're taking on board what we're saying. But we don't feel we're getting that at the moment, which is why I've taken the point of view that it's far more important for us, rather than keeping the club on side at the moment, it's far more important for us to get Spurs fans on side. And for too long, we've walked on eggshells around the club, and we've allowed a lot of the Spurs fan base to maybe misunderstand what we're trying to do. And we've not dealt with that. We've just allowed it to happen. And one of my reasons for reaching out to you, Brian, or you reached out to me and me replying, was because I saw this as a great opportunity for us to go, right, do you know what? No more are we breaking our backs to get the club on side, because they're not going to listen to us. If we can get Spurs fans united behind the cause, we're going to be far more powerful and we can do far more. And that doesn't mean, to me, it doesn't matter what part of any Spurs fan base doesn't matter what area of the fan base you're in, whether you're in you want the owners out fan base, you're in a protest group, or you're in this group, or you're in the supporters trust. We're Spurs fans, and if we met each other in the pub 10 years ago at an away game, we'd have a few beers and we'd have a chat. And the fact that our fan base is so fractured, it really makes me. I know this sounds ridiculous, but it makes me feel sad, because I'm just thinking, we've got the best fan base in the world when we go away. You go to away games, we're brilliant when we're together. We have all the banter. I stand with blokes who I've never met before. We sing, we celebrate together. We go home, and I'm thinking he probably hates the trust. He doesn't know it's me, So, but we're just Spurs fans. So I was like, at a recent board meeting, as we were discussing, I said we've got to do more, not to appease the club, to get our fan base together, because that has to be our priority now.
So me, it has to be, and that's why I'm so proud or impressed that you responded, and we can have this conversation. Because I know last summer when I was back in London, I went on a show with someone else on a channel that wanted to have this conversation about the board, but wasn't fully against the board. When I went on it, a load of people that were Levy Out praised this host for entertaining the conversation and having a discussion. And all the people that were not against the board absolutely teared him and myself and the other person a brand, like literally it was toxic, it was vile. So it's on both sides, which is just such a shame. But hopefully, like you said, this is the thing. If we can get a fan base, I'm not saying this is like a Live Aid or something, and all of a sudden we're all going to wake up and we're seeing rainbows and unicorns. But I think this has more power, like you said, than I think we realise. David, do you have anything to mention on this?
Yeah, I just think this is what needed to be done. I think with the Supporters Trust, I'll be honest, on Twitter, when the Supporters Trust put stuff up, I quote tweeted not nice things, and unfortunately that's because, like I said previous, I don't know the people behind it. And it's great speaking to someone like yourself, Mon, and realize behind it there is a human being who could be going through anything. They could be having the worst day ever, and they have to put out a statement. And then there's a person like me and many others who will quote tweet it saying the most horrible stuff, but you don't see the person behind it. And I think it's coming to realization, hence why I became a member just now, because it's like, well, hold on a minute. I feel kind of bad for what I've said previously, because, you know, to get what I mean now, it's like,
what I'd say to you, Dave, is I wouldn't feel bad, because you know, we put ourselves out there. We're volunteers, I know, but we put ourselves out there as a trust board, and we know, you know, we're in a position where, you know, that we're fighting for a greater good, and we understand that when you're frustrated as a fan, you take it out on, sometimes you don't go for the club because you're feeling they're not listening, so you go for the next best thing, which is probably us, because we've got a way into the club. Although not much of a way in at the moment. So it's so I get it. I get it. You know, and you've got, and I know, and I don't take it. For me personally, as you know, I don't take it personally, and because I completely understand. You know, we'll come on. I know we've got a question about the letter we sent to Ange, and I think that sums up how misunderstood we can be, and maybe that's something that we also need to address. That we can't just, but again, this helps us because it maybe helps people understand that we're doing, I've got a job, I've got 3 boys, I've got 2 dogs, I've got a missus, I've got things to do, I've got to take one to football, I've got to take one swimming, I've got to run a pub with the other one, I've got to upload a statement, do my job, and then sometimes we don't get things always right, you know, and then that's just what happens, you know, so it's
I have to say, Martin, I hope your missus doesn't see this, because you got 3 boys, a dog, business, blood. I got a missus. It's like, bro, yeah.
Do you know what, Brian? She won't. She hasn't watched any of these for years. She's like, when are you bloody leaving that trust? She's just Spurs to her. Think of it this way: my dad's a Spurs fan. Her dad's a Spurs fan. My 3 boys didn't have a chance to be Spurs fans. When we, you know, for example, you lose to Arsenal, she just disappears. She's not in the house for 2 days. She's like, I'm not there. I don't want to be anywhere near you lot. We just come home. We see it 2 days later. So she's used to it. So don't worry.
There we go. Right. So we're going to move on to the next subject. Now, the next subject, if I was on Mastermind, this would be my specialist subject. It would be about Levy Out and the Levy Out protests. So people that are watching this, I'm not here to discuss with Martin and Dave how much of a beep certain people, including myself, think he is. This is specifically, about what we try to do. Now, obviously, Martin, I'm going to speak about this quite a bit, and this might be a little bit back and forth. Obviously, I joined a group of people who I now consider family, and I don't just mean family because we all stand for what we stand by and what we protested for. These are a group of people that are so passionate about getting the owners out and wanting better, and all because, like you said, we all want success for Tottenham. Is how do we get there? Now, the first time I came, I was going to come to the Super League one, but I couldn't make it because obviously I'm in Toronto, and it was a point where getting back to England was not feasible. But I said to myself, you know what? I'm making it for the NFL protest. I will be there for the NFL. Because it's something I stand by and it's something I want to do. So obviously I came, and then myself, a guy called Graham Levine, and a guy called Ryan Isaacs, in our group that we have, said, you know what, we're going to go to the training ground and protest every single day. Halfway through the January window that we had, we signed Kulusevski and Bentancur. We got a lot, like we said, a lot of people taking the piss, a lot of people backing it. But again, the numbers kind of dwindled, and only they picked up. But as soon as we heard Kulu and Bentancur saved, it died a death. But then, obviously, last season when things were not last season before Conte time, it was bad times at Tottenham. It was bad times at Tottenham, and we obviously made sure that we protested, and we made sure that we were there when your protest is the next one, so I'm going to keep it to ours. But obviously, when we were there, we were doing all of the hard work. We did the brunt work. We had people there, and then obviously there was a time where I don't know if it was yourself that was part of it or whatever, but when Newcastle owners were being taken over, you guys, as a trust, went down the road of we have to stop Newcastle. We can't let Newcastle do this. And obviously we were standing there going, oh my God, is this actually happening? We're trying to do. So, I mean, I don't get when there was a lot of work being put in by us. And again, like you said, all of them have jobs. I was over from London, Toronto, so obviously not working because I live here. So we were putting in a lot of time and effort. Media, we were doing it social media wise. I was on YouTube, as were others on YouTube. I don't understand why, as a trust, there was just nothing at all. I know we've said in this conversation we don't get involved in footballing matters, but what was the thought of the trust the trust thought when they saw what we were doing and what we're trying to do? And did the trust at ever point think, let's try and help them or do something?
Yeah, I think it's, for me personally, I respect anyone that believes in a cause. You know, I've said previously on interviews, you know, every fan has the right to protest in any way they like, you know, as long as it's legal, which it is.
Yep.
And I've got nothing but respect for anybody that goes through the amount of work that people have done to show, you know, that they're not in support of any right, of any owner, of any, you know, political, whatever it is. So yeah, I think it's you know, how people pick up their protest is up to them, and as I said, fully support the people's right to do that. From our point of view at the time, I wasn't chair at the time, obviously, but we were in a position where we'd not long called for the resignation of the board, and we'd actually taken a bit of flack for that. The club, our relationship with the club had struggled quite a lot after that, and we'd finally kind of got back in to the room with them, and they were offering us, you know, conversations about ticketing and this ticketing review and the ticketing charter. So our reasons for really steering clear were for us to be able to stay in the room with the club, because we felt at that point it was really important for us to be in a position where we could negotiate with the club on behalf of supporters. Now, having said that, obviously we've had the conversation previously that we don't feel we're being negotiated with or consulted with. So things may well change. But I think from our point of view, we always felt that if we got involved in a direct protest where people were calling for the owners to be ousted, that some of our members might have an issue with that. So like you said earlier, Brian, there are people within the fan base who believe that the owners are doing a good job. So it's a difficult one, and it's a difficult one to go. I was having a bit of a row with someone on Facebook the other day because someone put our statement up about the tickets, and somebody said, I don't know why people are moaning. We've got a lovely stadium, we've got a lovely training ground, and 6% is nothing. And I went in and I just said, I said 6% is huge for football fans. I said, but actually, and we were talking about then the category A, B, and C games. And I said, but it's some fans can't afford it, but this is like 2 to 3 million to the club. And you've got a chairman who pays himself £6.5 million a year and then pays himself a £3 million bonus. So whatever money they make from the ticketing increase will probably cover that bonus. So there are other ways for the club to generate money. And they were saying, well, I disagree. I think they're doing a great job. So we have to kind of gauge that opinion. We have to be careful. So that's where we were. And maybe at times people will say we've been too careful. Maybe at times people will say we've maybe not been open enough with groups like yours to have these kind of conversations. And that's something I want to address, because I think it's too important for us now as football supporters to be fractured. But yeah, that was it really. It was at a really delicate stage of us getting back in with the club. So I guess the timing wasn't ideal. It was more political than personal. But looking back now, I'd like to think moving forward we can have this kind of open relationship where we can have those discussions, because I think it's important that we do.
Because I have to say with this, before you said that, I looked at it that not open door, closed door, you wanted the dialogue. I thought, you know what, if I personally, and I know others did that feel the same, when I say I'm speaking for a lot of people that are against the board, that having the door closed in your face would have been another reason to go, right, okay, you want to play this game? We go that way. But I also understand now you say it, it's better to keep the door open so there is some form of dialogue, because then you're missing out on everything else that you do.
Yeah.
But I honestly thought at the time, and still, I must admit, still to a little bit, would be like, if they had gone, right, go do one, it would have given more vengeance. But I do understand, like I said, there are people in this fan base that are like myself and others that are Levy Out. And there's others that aren't. So it's finding, like you said, this happy medium. But yeah, that's where I was on that, Martin.
No, I agree. And I think it's, for me now, obviously you look back and you try, and for me, looking back is all about learning lessons. And now it's about, for us, maybe looking forward and thinking about how can we hold the club to account for the decisions they're making. And the way to do that is to have strength in numbers and to come together. Because what's clear to me is we've had a number of different boards as sport. I've been on for 10 years or 9 years. I can only do it for another couple of years. So I'll be here. So in 2 years, I'll be gone, and maybe you'll hear exactly what I think then as well. But you know, we've had a number of different boards, and each time we've maybe trusted the club to give us that consultation, to keep us involved, and each time the structured dialogue that we've been promised hasn't transpired. And there's only so many times you can take that, and there's only so many times as chair of the board, which I wasn't always, but there's only so many times you can say. So if you know, as I think I said to you previously when we had a quick chat, you know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and hoping for a different outcome. We're not going to do the same thing over and over again anymore and hope for a different outcome, because they're not going to change. And the only way for us to get them to change is to perhaps roll up our sleeves and to try a different tactic. And to maybe, you know, I love Ange's football, I love Pochettino's football, but maybe we've got to go a bit more direct, like Conte's football, a bit more ugly, and you know, and roll up our sleeves and do it a different way, because it's too important. We're seeing Spurs fans for generations priced out of that stadium. We're seeing young supporters not being able to get in that stadium. We're seeing too many fans going, I just can't make it anymore. And we're seeing too many fans who aren't Spurs fans being able to get tickets to big games. And it's just not good enough from the club, and something has to change.
There you go, David. Do you have any question on that before we move to the next subject?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question. It's like kind of to both of you at the same time, because obviously you know me, Brian, and obviously Martin, I mentioned to you that I am not Levy in, I'm not Levy out. I just want the club to change for the better. When it comes to the board and the situation about, you know, the Levy out people and stuff like that, and the same, Brian, on your side with the group you're in going towards the trust, do you find it's frustrating either side when you have a group of people that can't come to the right decision? Like obviously with the trust, you're going to have people who don't want to engage at all and have no reasoning or could ever be reason to engage with people who are Levy out. And the same, Brian, on your side, where there's an abundance of Levy out people who are just not willing to engage with the trust, where if you think about it, if both came together, like in a situation like this, that group and number joining together for the correct cause, where it could be like, say, you two hypothetically could be the two people on it, your side, Levy outside type of thing, and everyone listens to, as a collective come together, could make a better change for the club rather than be individualist within it all. Do you find that frustrating on either part? And I'll say to Martin first, I'll let you answer first, and then Brian. Do you find it's slightly frustrating that there's too many that are not willing to be a part of something and unwilling to listen?
Yeah, I do. I think, like as you said, I think there's potentially something new to be gained from this, where maybe a new group or something where we can say to Spurs, it doesn't matter what you think, whether you want the owners to stay or you want the owners to go. We're Spurs fans, and to get you, if you're not happy with the way the club's being run, or you're not happy with 2 League Cups since 1992, or you're not happy with you know, the transfer strategy or the management hiring strategy previously to Angel, whatever, then we can come together and we can talk about it. I agree. Look, in my time on the trust, I'm going to speak really honestly. There's been times when I've been frustrated by the politics of being on the trust as well, and I think now we're at a point maybe where, as a board, we're very aligned. Even the fan advisory board get a lot of stick as well. but we've got two supporters trust board members on the fan advisory board, which is something we agreed with the club. And you know, they have their meetings with the club, and they tell us, well, this is what's going to come up in your meeting. They you know, there's nothing to be gained by them being on that board other than they're giving up their time. But again, maybe there's something for us to do in people understanding what they do. And there was a lot of political fallout within and without the trust when the FAB was being formed. And I guess looking back, that frustrated me, because I think it's we can't, as a trust board, or as former trust members, or as future trust members, or as Spurs fans, we can't allow our politics to get in the way of what we're doing. And there's been too many times when that has happened. And that, you know, we're coming on to our protests in a bit. Yep. And that is an example of politics getting in the way of principle. And I'm not going to, you know, I said to Brian previously, I'm not going to, I feel a little bit like I was thrown under the bus with that protest. And I'm happy to be. I'm an ugly bloke who's 47. I'm happy. I've been punched enough times in the face. I can deal with that. And I won't throw anyone else under the bus. But, you know, people sometimes, I think everybody has to be aware of their actions. You know, and we had an AGM last year, and we had, you know, former board members releasing statements about the board because they didn't like the fan advisory board. And you're just like, God, you know, and that's been sorted. You know, we're supporting Save Our Seniors. Sorry, that's been sorted into a term that we're trying to draw a line under and move forward. So I don't want to bring that up. I'm just saying sometimes things happen and you just think we need to focus on the club and what they're doing. And every time we focus on each other and other fan groups and other issues, we're letting them off the hook. And that's what, you know, that's what annoys me the most about it.
Yeah, I mean, on my side, what I will say is it's kind of similar to Martin as well. It's the amount of traction we were getting and the amount of people that said, yeah, I'm coming to the protest, I'll be there. And they're nowhere in sight. They're either in the pub having a drink or, which, listen, they work hard all week. Just don't say you're going to be here and do this, because we have loads of plans to do more. But obviously it's based on people. If we have 200 people at a protest and we said we have plans to be in X, Y, and Z, and we take 50, we had the mickey taken out of us for having 200 people. So there's 50. But what really got me with it is, like you said, the abuse that comes with it, and then also with the Levy Out, there's 200 of us there doing it. But then in the stadium, i.e. the Manchester United game, when we got the balloons on the pitch, which was us, the Enoch Out balloons were all part of the group I proudly stand with. When it comes to that 21st minute or whatever minute it was, we said because of the amount of years Levy's been there, all of a sudden, thousands are singing it. We all knew thousands sang it against Brentford, and he's getting his knee rubbed by his wife. It's like, well, you were in the stadium doing it. Why can't you just come here? Because if you look at that stadium, Martin, what would you say? I know it's 62.5, but minus away and corporate and all that, what would you say? About 55,000, 50,000?
Yeah, I mean, was it 40-odd thousand season ticket holders and another sort of 6,000 member then general sales? So yeah, I would take away. Yeah, you've got to be looking at mid 50s, haven't you? So
yeah, let's just say 50,000 for all attention. If 10% of those people that were season ticket holders were Levy Out and singing that, and by the sound of it, you could say that was a safe bet, whether they were singing it just for peer pressure next to them or whatever. That's 5,000 people. If those 5,000 people had come and stood with us for like 20 minutes, 10 minutes at some point, 5,000 people look a lot stronger than 200. That's where, again, like you said, Martin, this hopefully opens doors. People on your side, on the trust side, and people that aren't Levy Out see where we were coming from on our point. Because like you said, there's loads of us there, and that Levy Out hashtag has been died a death for obvious reasons. And anyone that says it gets attacked or got quoted. And like you said, and I didn't know, we're going to have a little chat about Save Our Seniors, like the purple and gold. We're trying to drop it and disassociate from it, because obviously that went completely Pete Tong. But yeah, Dave, in answer to your question, hopefully I've realised I keep using the terminology. This summer I've gone a little bit more. Listen, I'm still as out the board out as I ever have been, but I'm on the kind of way that I need to engage with people better. I need rather than going, oh, you're an idiot, you're this, you're that, people aren't going to join you. If you go, yeah, come along with me, but by the way, you're a prick or whatever, they'll be like, why am I? It's that my favourite saying at the moment is you trap more flies with honey than you do vinegar. And I think like we're having this conversation now, it is the way to do it. It's that open dialogue. It's engaging. It's not just shouting and calling people out and every name under the sun and trolling. That's where we got to go with it. But we'll move on to the next one. And as you said, Martin, you know our subject's coming up. It's the your protest.
Yeah.
Now, when we talk about it, I'll give you again the play-by-play from my side. Obviously, as you know, I spoke to Anthula quite a bit with Stelios from Tottenham away. And when this was coming out, I did a show with Stel to say, let's back the trust, let's do this, let's do that. Then you did it for the Man U game. And obviously, we had planned to do our Levy Out protest, as we do. And we even said, we are going to finish this protest early, R1, to put all the banners away. We're not going to come with any of our Levy Out ballads. We're not coming to gate crash. We're coming to support. We even said on our personal Twitters, people that be, that this is what we're doing. This isn't about, we're not singing Levy Out. We're not doing, this is about the trust are going down this pathway as an attack point, whereas we're going for the whole lot. We're going for the crown jewels. You were doing a tactical approach, let's just say, and you picked that was the subject to go on. Then obviously the first one, and I was there, then I had my trolls going, oh, look at me, attention seeking, when people, Kat knew very well that I came to support, but people want to misconstrue it. And then obviously that one was a riveting success. And then the next game, Sheffield United, obviously things went completely wrong. You can go into it, what you can say, but the bit I'm going to get at, I want you to answer a bit about is, obviously you said that week is why that happened. How comes there wasn't any more like, okay, we screwed up this week. Here we go. We're back this week and we're going to continue this until it gets the momentum we need.
We, as a board, we were in a, and I'll be honest, we were in a bit of a state at that point, because so what happened was we had the Man United, protest, which was great. And funnily enough, I wasn't at the Man United protest because I was in America, so I booked a holiday.
How dare you?
I was like, yeah, I was like, damn. So Sheffield United one, I was really up for it, and all week people were saying, oh, we've not got as many people coming to help, we've not got as much going on. What we're going to do? I said, look, what we'll do, I'll be there. I'm bringing my boys. We're going to get there. We'll get the banners. We'll stand there. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Like you say with your protest, Brian. Doesn't matter if 4 people turn up. Doesn't matter if 400 people turn up. We'll be there with our banners. People will join us, and that was the plan. Now, and look, I know people will probably take the piss out of this and say, "Oh, you know," but that week of all weeks we'd had a board member who would have been there, had some surgery. We'd had a couple of people just go down ill, and it was just one of those weeks. But I was like, well, look, I'm going to be there, so let's just do it. We're not going to cancel. I work in comms, as you know.
Yep.
I was like, you can't cancel this, because if we cancel it, we're just going to get shit. And those conversations were still going on Saturday morning. I was like, you can't, it's too late. And what effectively happened was I got there, we'd moved, one of our mistakes was we'd moved the, where we were staging it. And that was we'd been asked by, I can't remember why we'd been asked to move it, or for whatever reason. We thought it might have more weight if we put it in front of, near sort of further down the road where, when you go past the West Stand and you've got the bit where you can go up to the South Stand, the stairs and the lift area.
Yep.
So we're going to do it there. So I get there, I'm there with my boys, and I'm like, right, let's do this. The people who had the banners, and as I said, I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus, but for whatever reason, the people with the banners just couldn't get down there. It wasn't going to happen. And that was a horrible moment. It was just a horrible moment, because I knew then and there, I knew what was happening, and I knew what was going to happen. And to be honest, what's happened since doesn't surprise me. All the, whenever we release something, people didn't turn up to protest. I get it. I knew that at that moment, this was going to happen. I could see it all. So I was walking around saying to people, I'm here. I saw a couple of guys, because a guy was coming over from Belfast Spurs, and he'd messaged me on LinkedIn, said, I'm going to be there. So I wanted to meet him and go, look, I'm here. Then someone came up to me and said, "Oh, there's loads of fans down at where the Man United demo was." So I ran down the road there, and then people were saying, "Oh, we went up there and we couldn't find anyone." It was a shambles. It was horrible. So we went into the game. We were getting messages. We scored the winner. I celebrated the winner. You know, the stadium went mad.
Yeah.
And I came out, but I just had that sinking feeling because I knew what had happened. At that point, the board kind of we hit a bit of a fractured. You know, I was talking about earlier about there being political issues. In a way, that demo that never happened. The silver lining behind that is after that, it sorted stuff out, and we were like, we've got to do better than this, and we sorted it out. But it doesn't mean what happened didn't happen. It was a nightmare. We looked at maybe doing further protests. I think the feeling was we just couldn't. If we put anything out on social media saying we were going to do a protest, we just get laughed at. So what we did a protest before the Fulham game with some Fulham fans in the Antwerp Arms because they had their £3,000 season tickets. So we got the banners there at the Antwerp Arms. We did a picture there. We invited fans to join us there. And some did, and some said, look, don't worry about it. And we've had a lot of people as well who've supported us and said, look, you volunteers, shit like this happens. And we've had discussions since where we say, look, maybe we should have another at the time we were saying, well, look, we're back in the room now. So on the back of the Man United protest as well, the other silver lining, we got back in the room with the club. We started having these discussions about the ticketing charter, which we were part of, and the ticketing review. And we were happy to stay in that room. So what we were doing the social media campaign, which you've probably seen, which is us saying how people have been priced out of the game, with a view to us hoping to change the club's mind on ticketing prices. And we were happy to keep it at that level. But of course, now this summer, that's all gone out the window because they put season ticket prices up by 6% again, and they put matchday ticket prices up. And we were in a meeting with the club where they said, look, we don't want to be in this position again next year. So we assumed they meant we're not going to put matchday ticket prices up next year, but they did. So we're now in a position where we're looking at everything. If we, I've arranged in my time, I used to be head of comms for the Police Federation. I've arranged a lot of events, and I know the work that needs to go into it. And I think if we do it again, we'll learn the lessons from it. But I think it was more really an illustration of us as a fractured board, which we've now resolved, and hopefully moving forward, we'll see the benefits of us being sort of more unified, because it was a horrible day. It really was.
And well, I mean, because also I remember as well, I think it took about 2 days for a statement to come out saying what had happened, which obviously again, as you know, and you said that you work in comms, if you've done that and then it's been pursued, like obviously not enough people came, banners, not to put a statement out for 2 days would have done a lot more damage than I think not even turning up, maybe, Martin. Just a complete, let's knock it on the head and pretend, not saying this is what you were thinking. Let's hope no one sees, let's pretend that it didn't happen. But I think as well, like you said, so there's that to answer again what the thought process was. And the only other bit I want to add to that as well is, like you said, if you were to go again, as you were saying, could happen, whatever happened, I think doing this and having this conversation again might actually get more people to think, okay, maybe there is a reasoning behind why you're doing it the way you're doing it, or you will go about it. And hopefully, because there's a load of us, I think a load of the people that went for you, including myself, and you were opened up to all kinds of abuse from it, is because of that lack of trust. And a lot of people that were frustrated with the board and where the club were going. So who knows? Next time it could be more beneficial. But like I said, the most important thing is, what was it that took so long to get a communication out?
We were just after that. We had like a few days of turmoil. I mean, this is where I'd not long taken over as chair because we weren't in a good place.
Yep.
So, and my viewpoint was we need to sort. Apologies to anyone who's offended when I swear, but my view was we need to sort our own shit out before we worry about what anyone else thinks. And that's probably as selfish as I get, but it was. I knew what was going. And my personal feeling was we could get a statement out, and it probably would have helped, but it wasn't going to help in a big way. And we needed to sort some proper nonsense out before we move forward. which we have. And in a way, I feel like we've come back stronger. I feel like we're in a position now where we're on the back of that. If there's one positive to be taken from what happened, it was we realised that the internal politics cannot get in the way of the work we do. And because of the politics, there were maybe people who didn't feel involved in the protest or felt pushed out, who didn't want to be involved, who didn't want, and what I realised we needed a board that needed to come as one. Much like I'm saying about the fan base, it's a similar thing. It's almost like get us sorted, and now let's try and get the fractured fan base sorted, because it was just a mess. It was awful, but we needed to sort that out, and we've done that now, which is nice. We're in a much stronger position, and do you know what? I've got no problem with anybody saying you didn't turn up to your own protest. I get it. I completely understand. I think what I would say to those people is, it's over a year and a half now, however long it is. What I would say to people is, a year, coming up to a year, it helps the club. Because every time we put something out that's criticising the club, if people just focus on something negative that we've done, the club aren't getting maybe the criticism they deserve for something they've done. And I think that's where that would be my only words on it. Look, people, I've got no problem with people giving us a kicking when we make a mistake, and we made a massive mistake, and it was. And we've got to be big enough to own up to that, and I think I am. But we now need to kind of move on. And there might be more protests. There might be new things coming that people can get involved in, and we can put this to bed. But my view would be, as we said earlier, Brian, as well, when fans are arguing, the only people benefiting from Spurs fans arguing is the Spurs board, because then the attention's not on them. And that's something I really want to try and get away from if we can.
It's you raise a good point. And I think, again, like we spoke, Martin, before even Dave got involved, it was like, this could be a chance where, should you have news to break, should there be something that's come out that's not, now this door has been opened. So obviously it's not just you mentioning it, I'm chairman of the trust, this is what I'm typing. This is Martin, the Spurs supporter, telling you from the trust, this is what we're doing. Yeah. So I really hope this, that explains. I mean, Dave, before we go on to the next one, do you have a question on their protest?
I don't know. I think Martin covered it pretty clearly. So yeah, nothing. Sorry.
Can I just say one thing as well, just quickly?
Yeah, of course.
Move on. Because I don't want to make anyone think that's just what happened. I don't want to make anyone think I'm blaming anyone else. For me, although I haven't been in the job, I was chair of the organisation, so the buck stops with me on that. It's my fault, and I don't want to see people sort of digging anyone out on social media or anything like that. There's no malice. There's no animosity from me. I understand why everybody who was on the board at the time did what they did. I understand why everybody felt the way they did. It was a really high pressure moment. There were people struggling with the pressure that they were dealing with, and maybe, like you said, Dave, sometimes, and maybe this is, I'm very sort of happy-go-lucky, and maybe I wasn't fully aware of how people were feeling and the pressure they were feeling under while dealing with this, and that's a learning curve for me. But I completely understand why everybody did what they did, and I should have spotted it earlier. So that I blame myself for it, and and hopefully next time we learn the lessons and we move forward. But yeah, that was it.
There you go. Well, we're now going to move on to Frederick. You said that you're trying to single this out, or whatever the words you used was, which I wasn't aware of. Obviously, we're just going to cover over this now. When this first happened, as we spoke as well, I'll let you know, the first thing I immediately thought about was my grandpa on my mum's side. Didn't get to meet my grandpa on my dad's side. He died before I was even born. But my grandpa loved Spurs. Was 100 years old, 96 when he died in 2013. So he'd seen the glory, he'd seen the bad, he'd seen the... Obviously, I immediately thought there's people like my grandpa at the age now that have travelled up and down this country, even Europe, have followed this team through thick and thin, and a lot of it, unfortunately, the bad stuff, and especially recently with the lack of trophies I'm talking about. Obviously, they've seen the elderly people, or people of this age, had seen some very good times at Tottenham Hotspur. So I thought, how dare they treat people that have obviously been there, done that, got the T-shirt, and I was very, very against it, but to begin with. And I still am against it. But then I had a lot of people talk to me and say, do you know what, Brian, these people have not just seen it, but they're financially in a better place. The people that we should be looking at is the exact opposite of people. Obviously, like you said, you've got 3 boys. I've got my nephews who are going to be, the eldest going to be 13 next year. They're going to want to go. And because of the way the world is, let alone the football club, it's ridiculously expensive. And it should be more, not saying that the seniors shouldn't as well, but there should be something towards the younger people, the new breed of fans coming through. I mean, what were your thoughts, to trust yourself, whichever way you want to answer this, regarding the Save Our Seniors and obviously the youngsters as well?
When I was first told in the meeting, I couldn't believe my ears, actually. I personally, not speaking as a chair of the trust, not speaking as a trust board member, I was disgusted. And I still am. My father-in-law went to a lot of Spurs games at the old White Hart Lane, came with us. He went to Wembley through the Wembley years when the club needed him. Remember when the club was saying, we need you at Wembley, blah, blah, blah. He was there. No one wants to be at Wembley on a Wednesday night, getting the train back. It's a pain in the arse. Oh. So he was there. He couldn't come to the Spurs stadium from day one. He felt it was just too much for him. Like him and my mother-in-law, they're not, they're well off, they go on holiday, but he was just like, that's too much for me. There's just too much. Oh, when they say well off, you know what I mean? They're okay. Yeah. But he said, I just can't justify it. Plus, he said, I don't want to sit where they want me to sit. There's not enough concessionary seats. My boys wanted to go in the south stand, safe standing, so we did that. I've had to pay for them as young members, even though they weren't young members, they were juniors. Like Luke was a junior. He's now 19, but when we first went in, he was a junior, about to pay a young adult. Lewis is 16. He's been paying the young adult. I've been paying a young adult for him for 2 years. When Ethan, our 12-year-old, who's a member, goes instead of Luke, because Luke plays football on a Saturday, when Ethan takes a season ticket, we pass it over on ticket exchange. I don't get a refund for that. So I'm taking a 12-year-old and I'm paying, I'm not getting any money back for Luke not going as an adult. So my point to the club was that you can't have it both ways. I see loads and loads of Spurs fans bringing their kids into the South Stand for certain games, like Brentford, Fulham, those kind of games. And I know they're paying full adult prices. So for the club to say, when the club said to us, the reason they're doing it is because there are a lot of seniors who have been flipping their tickets to adult members and they're not paying the difference and they can't live that. My first response was, well, you do the same you do the same as a club to people bringing their kids to the stadium. So, why not deal with that as well? So I didn't like it. I didn't like the two-facedness of it all. I don't like the fact we've had so many emails and they're all on our Twitter, a lot of them on our webpage. So heartbreaking. I go with my kids, I go with my grandkids. I can't go anymore. I've been going since the 60s. I've been there since the 70s. I joined Spurs. I became a season ticket holder, or I started going to Spurs when we were relegated in the 70s. I've been there every season since. I went in the 90s. These are fans that the club needed. When we needed our stadium to be full, they were there. In the games when, we were losing 6-1 at home to Chelsea with Christian Gross and games like that. When they were needed, they were there in those games. And now we're the most profitable sports club in world football. And we're saying these 2,500, 3,000, whatever it is, seniors are putting a black hole in our balance books. I don't get it, and I never will. It's not right.
There you go. David?
No, I've got nothing to add to that. I think both of you spoke about it very well. So, yeah, I'll leave it to that.
Okay, so we've got 2 other subjects to deal with. Then we're going to go to the questions. I think, what do we have, Dave? 7?
Roughly about that. Yeah, roughly about that.
So the first one we can gloss over because I know and you know that there is a question coming up. This, the we've called it the NLD Ange Invitation. Now, obviously, I'm going to say it right here, right now on myself. I wanted Man City to beat us. I wanted to lose to Manchester City because I did not want that lot, who I call the filth, winning the title. I did not want them winning the title, especially with how things have been. People, like you said, when you were just talking about the senior fans and people that my mum was born in Tottenham, my dad was I didn't have a choice. The first thing in my family we get put in is a Spurs baby grow tradition. I was a season ticket holder from the season after we signed Jurgen Klinsmann, so when he left, the 95 when Chris Armstrong came in, and before I moved to Israel in 2004. Home, away, there. And they weren't the best of days. These are the sugar days and obviously some of Levy's days. I was there by hook or by crook, no matter what, I was there. So when these people were coming out, obviously, and saying, and we all know the absolute shit that caused for Tottenham Hotspur fan base being for that fixture that didn't even have anything to do with us. Obviously, we're playing City, but the outcome had nothing to do with us. And obviously, it caused outrage beyond anything I've seen recently. I mean, then this broke, and obviously, you can go into a bit more detail about how this broke and what actually was meant by it. So over to you, Martin.
Yeah, I'm like you. I went to the. I'm not proud saying this. I went to the City game, and I was relieved when they scored. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, and I never want to feel that way again. I was at Old Trafford when in 99 when
Les Ferdinand, so was I.
And Les Ferdinand scored, and we were all going, Les, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
And I love Spurs more than I hate Arsenal, absolutely. But given the season we've had, given what we've been, and my son was born in 2004. He's never seen, like Luke, my eldest, he's never seen Arsenal win the league. So he's had a very privileged life, and I don't want to start. I don't want him to start seeing that. You know, it's not nice.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. Yeah, and the bottom line is, again, in my lifetime, that's happened to me twice. I don't remember any other club having to go through this. You know, it only seems to be Spurs that go through it. So I went there and I hated every moment. I didn't want to go to the game. Luke and Lewis said, Dad, we're going. We're not missing City at home. I was like, I feel really uneasy going, but we went. And most people in my area who I know very well were all like, we want City to win. There were a couple of tourists in there, like Sonny fans or whatever, who were cheering for stuff, and we were trying to explain to them, blah blah blah. And it was quite well. It was good natured, so it was fun. When Son went through 1-on-1, I couldn't watch. I was like, I can't deal with this. And my biggest issue was like with the team selection playing Van der Ven at left back. I was like, why didn't you do that against Arsenal? Because we might have got something from that game. You know, that was my issue. That's where I was coming from. So anyway, so that's it. We get in the car, we're driving home. I'm like, thank God for that. They can piss off. Happy days. So we get in the car, and then I heard Ange's interview, and Ange sounded crestfallen. And I get it. We all love Ange.
Yes, 100%.
Love the man. Got nothing but respect for him. Love him as a human being, principled. Love him as a football coach, principled. Top man. Looks like a bloke you'd have a beer with.
Yeah,
brilliant. Like, you know, absolutely. You know, so perfect. And my son said he sounds more upset than when we lost to Arsenal. And we were like, yeah, it's weird. And that's the kind of way I thought, why wasn't he this upset when we lost to Arsenal? You know, that's the kind of way we were going. Anyway, I just thought that's just my opinion. We'll drive home. Literally got back. We had loads of emails from people on the info account saying exactly the same. If we'd beaten Arsenal, we wouldn't be in this problem. If he played Mickey Van der Ven at left back, Saka's second goal might not have gone in. We might not have been in this position. That's the way a lot of fans, and I know football's not like that. And I know Ange will say there's a whole load of reasons, and I get it. He knows better than all of us, and I'm not going to question that. But that's where fans were coming from. So fine. The next day, then it comes out the post-match interview, and I see it where he's talking about he was, you know, I can't remember the way he said it. It was he got it wrong in terms of the mentality inside and outside of the club. As soon as he said outside of the club, I thought, whoa, because he's talking about us, and I was like, that's not right. Because Spurs didn't lose that game because of us. Nothing to do with us, you know. And we didn't beat Arsenal, and the atmosphere was good. So don't suddenly say we've lost this game. And he might not have been saying that. So just be clear. If anyone wants to, I'm not saying he said that. That was what I was thinking.
How you interpret it? Yeah.
So we had a chat, and we spoke to a few members who'd written, and we said, right, we're going to write a letter just explaining why Spurs fans felt like they did. And I'm going to read you a snippet of that letter, because the club, we were going to release this letter on Twitter, and the club asked us not to, and we respected their wishes. But this isn't, because the letter isn't against Ange. it's against what's gone on for the last
Yep.
20 years. There'll be stuff that I'll leave out, Fran, but on the meeting, and look, I mean, I might answer the question that I know is coming up. We didn't demand a meeting. What happened was, when we wrote the letter, we thought it ended a bit abruptly. So we just sort of said, we'd be happy to discuss this further if you want to. That was it. And I mentioned it to Charlie Eccleshaw, the journalist at The Athletic.
Yep.
And just in passing, I said, this is it. And the club weren't happy that I'd said that. But then Charlie put in, the trust have also offered to meet Ange to explain fans' views. And I was like, oh, bloody hell. Anyway, that was it. Then I get asked to go on Talk Sport. I had no idea. And it's all like, trust demands meeting. So I go in and I'm trying to explain what was behind it. Then they go to Martin O'Neill, who then slates us for demanding a meeting. They go to Simon Jordan. And I'm like,
Oh,
this would be great, because I can now go, we didn't ask a meeting. And then the interview's over. And I never got to say we didn't demand a meeting. So this is some of the letter. I'm going to read it. So we start by saying, like, I'm going to go through it because it takes ages. But like how much we love him. We love his breathtaking football. It's been great to see that. Tuesday was a unique and awkward experience for supporters. Not something that anyone would want to go through again. No match-going fan ever wants to turn up to not support their team, particularly with the prices we pay. I had to get that in.
Yeah.
Anyone shouting at the players and management and asking him as a joke if you throw the game deserves the criticism they receive, because that guy who had a go at Ange, he's a plonker. Don't do that. Don't sort of, Ange is, all the professionals are going to win the game. We get that. So I say many were simply conflicted. We badly want Spurs to win, but we also don't want that lot to win the league. And they feel the same way about us too, by the way. It's not a one-way street.
Yeah.
So the atmosphere did suffer. So I said this. The atmosphere did suffer with so many supporters not sure what the outcome they preferred. That may be an alien concept to some, but walk in a Spurs fan's shoes and you'll soon see. And if anyone's got a problem with this letter, I wrote it, so don't have a go at the trust, it's me. I said, if we're talking about winning and truly winning, we've not achieved much since the Premier League's inception in 1992. In the 11 years before that, Spurs won the FA Cup in 81, 82, 91, won a European trophy, the UEFA Cup in 84. Our eyes have seen the glory. I was born in 76. It's what I grew up on. If you told me we won the FA Cup in 91 when I was 16, that I'll get to 47, we haven't won it since, I'll be like, no chance. I said, since 1992, we've won 2 League Cups. We've had managers who have celebrated Champions League qualification and 4th or 3rd place, like a trophy. So although he's saying we shouldn't be celebrating it, I'm saying we're celebrating because our managers were celebrating it.
Yeah.
And the board celebrate it. We do obviously want to see Spurs playing in Europe, in Champions League football and testing ourselves, but winning cups and league titles is what we truly remember. We're the Spurs supporters who've seen countless managers disrespect domestic trophies and play weakened teams, leading to inglorious exits to lower league teams, including, with respect to them, Colchester, Grimsby, Middlesbrough, Norwich, Portsmouth. I was at those games. So we love to see academy players given the chance to shine in the first team. But the above games have also been used as an excuse to trot out squad players whose commitment to the club should be questioned. You go to Grimsby away and you're seeing somebody who you've known for 6 weeks doesn't want to be there, and then you wonder why we've just lost to Grimsby in the last bloody minute. I said, we're the supporters who've travelled across Europe to see managers play weakened teams in the Europa League, Europa Conference Leagues, to lose in shambolic style 3-0 to Dynamo Zagreb. We were 2-0 up in the first leg. To Ghent, to NS Mura, to Pacos, to Vitesse. I said, the list goes on. We're not self-entitled. How can we be? But we expect our club to respect tournaments and play our strongest team, which was always more than capable of winning the above games and previous trophies. We can deal with the cup upset at Spurs, but suffering so regularly can kill your optimism. We've been promised new eras since 92 under Idelis, Gross, Francis, Graham, Hoddle, Santini, Joel, Ramos, Redknapp, Villa-Boas, Sherwood, Pochettino, Mourinho, Espirito Santo and Conte. One got close, but those new eras mostly ended in disappointment. So in the years of silverware shortage and the sun quickly setting on no less than 50 new dawns, we have hope you can change the mentality of the club, that you will respect domestic cup competitions and play your strongest team, because we believe we're good enough to win one soon with you in charge. We also hope that you will respect the Europa League, should we get the result on Sunday, because we had to beat someone, I can't remember who, to get that. And we look forward to challenging. I said a change in mentality will come in the stands, as it did earlier this season, when supporters truly believe we are challenging for domestic and European honours again. When we as a club are looking to win trophies rather than finish 4th, we share your views on that. So we're saying we don't want to finish 4th, we want a trophy. Maybe supporters will stop worrying about what our rivals are doing. I said, we truly hope you can change the mentality inside the club, because that will automatically transmit to the terraces. We're the fans who supported the club before went down to one of the most fearsome rivals. We're the supporters who love your style of football. We want you to succeed probably more than any other. But we're also the supporters of a club who've had to deal with tags like Spursy and bottlers because of what's happened on the pitch in the last 30 years. Change that perception and you'll never have to worry about support within our stadium again. That was our letter. And then
That-
it ended, if you know, we'd be happy to meet you to discuss further. That was it. That was our letter.
So they've taken the one line rather than the previous everything, and it's gone. I have to say that letter's brilliant. I have to say that letter's brilliant. Like you said, one of the main things that I was going mad about with the fans that were saying we're not Spurs fans for wanting that. It's like, when people say you were right in that letter, if the shoe was on the other foot,
Yeah.
it was us, and we needed Man City to, or they needed Arsenal to lose to stop Tottenham getting the title from Man City. I personally guarantee a large lion's share of Arsenal fans would be less. I mean, you even remember AFTV, a lot of the AFT guys, when they were asked, when we were in the Champions League and the Europa League final, and they're like, right, each club either wins them or each club loses them. What one you having? All the Arsenal fans, well, we'll lose the Europa so they don't get the Champions League.
Yeah.
So yeah, this
absolutely. And yeah, sorry, and the thing for me, the thing that got me, and again, this isn't Ange, this is the club, but don't tell us not to support, not to celebrate fourth, because I'm way past. I didn't really want to. I'll be honest. People might criticise me for this. I was quite happy for us to finish fifth because I think we can win the Europa League.
Same.
I don't want to go into competition that we're not going to win because I don't believe we're going to sign the players to back our squad to challenge in the Champions League. My biggest issue with Conte was the bloody Europa Conference League and San Marino when he was playing those teams. West Ham shouldn't have won that cup the first time. It should have been us. We're the club that win things for the first time. You know, it should have been us. You know, and those managers, the Mourinhos and the Contes, I don't blame them because we knew that's what they're like. The club employed them, and the club employed those who would tell us the best we can achieve is fourth. I went to Bramall Lane, Sheffield United under Conte. I've never seen a bigger shower of shit. Well, I have probably under Southgate against Slovakia, but just that. And I'm like, don't tell me what I can and bloody can't support and cheer because I wanted us to win that cup. Give me a League Cup. I'll be celebrating it like we've won the Champions League.
Same.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
I want trophies. I don't want to go to Sheffield United and see a load of players that clearly don't want to be at the club. I want to go there and see Son, then it was Kane and Luke, whoever, the strongest 11, and then play the weakened team in the Premier League on Saturday when we're fifth or sixth in the league. Go and win a cup, So, sorry, ran over.
No, you go. No, I mean, I have to say, we're going to briefly touch on the last subject because we've really talked about it. And I think then we'll go to the questions. But it's this, and to tell you the truth, I'm going to speak openly from me. Speaking to Martin, not the THST, the Supporters Trust chairman, I'm now speaking to Martin, the supporter. It's an eye-opener because everything we've just discussed in that NLD part, you align with me. The letter that you were trying to explain to Ange why we were like we were, I couldn't have written it better myself, but I would have incorporated, might have had a few more F words or some kind of me going on a rant. But I think it's amazing. I really do hope people, when they hear this back, they're like, do you know what? They're listening to Martin from the Trust, not the Trust chairman, so to speak, the person, not the title. Closing this gap is something that me and Dave, obviously, Dave, I'll let you speak a bit before we go to Martin, because obviously you said it better than me. There's a way we can, like you said, Martin, get it that the fans are trying to, it's not going to happen that we'll all wake up tomorrow and it's rainbows and Skittles and champagne. But closing the gap's important, Dave. What's your view on this part here?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this fan base has been so divided, whether it's from the Levy inside, whether it's Levy out, whether it's Tottenham change, whether it's none of them at all and just someone who just wants to support the club. There's a massive divide between everyone. And I think with something in this sense, it can show everyone from either side that things can happen if you just have a complete civil conversation. Again, from my point of view, the Trust was these bored people with suits and everything, but speaking to you, Martin, it's complete change. You're just a fan. And I don't think a lot of people see that. You're just a fan who's been put in a position where, like you were saying about that letter you had, you're put in uncomfortable positions and no one sees that. And I think this should open doors, but close the gap between this big divide that not only do people who are so against the Trust can say to themselves, well, hold on a minute, this Martin's been having a right laugh on that channel and, everything was really good and they had a nice conversation. There was no drama within it. and other members of the board can sit there and go, well, hold on a minute, Martin's gone on there, and they just had a laugh. They were chatting away, they were joking about, and he never got attacked or anything like that. I think this is something that needs to happen through the entire fan base. Stop with the hate between each other. It's not needed. Regardless of how your opinion is about Levy, about a player, about the manager, about everything, at the end of the day, you're both there for that club and that badge that is on the shirt. Nothing else. So for me, I just think this is fantastic. You know, it's been incredible talking to you. You're not, you know, and it's an eye-opener. I think whoever watches this, change your perspective of things and don't just read the cover of the book like the Trust's website. Think behind it and try and engage with the Trust in a positive manner. Because as we've seen with this conversation between all three of us, there's a lot more to it than just you guys sitting in the boardroom with Cullen and Levy and having tea and having great chats and everything and laughing at the fan base. It's far from that. And I think this has been fantastic. Yeah.
What's your thoughts there, Martin, before we go to the questions?
No, thanks to both. Thank you both for the opportunity on it. And I've enjoyed it. And that's the thing. I think when you get to, you know, we're Spurs fans. That's all we are. And we care. We all care. Nobody can say anybody cares more about that. I would never say I care more about the club than anyone else because I'm doing this or you or whatever. What I would say is you're giving up your time to do that. You know, you do Tottenham on tour. You've done your protests because you care, and you do, you know, and nobody should disrespect you guys for what you're doing because you're also showing. You know, you're trying to make a difference. You're trying to do something. You've created a channel that's got a great following, and that can bring the fan base together. We've got a, you know, we're in a similar position, and yeah, absolutely. The bottom line is, as I said earlier, you know, if we could all be standing next to each other in the stadium and the away game, jumping on top of each other when we score an away goal. It doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter if you're going to vote Tory, Lib Dem, Labour, whatever in the election. I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter whether you want Levy in, Levy out, or, you know, whether you've got massive respect for him or not. But we've got to stop arguing about it. And we've just got to get together and go, do you know what? Our club now, we're paying more than a lot of Premier League clubs for our tickets. We've got a great stadium. And one thing I will say, because no doubt the club will watch this, I do take my hat off to them from a business point of view. The stadium's fantastic.
Yes, it is.
The facilities are fantastic. I love going to that stadium. I miss White Hart Lane, obviously, but I love going to that stadium. And I think my issue has always been the strategy. In terms of what's gone on in the field, it's been the strategy, the hiring of managers. I think for me, it's always been a case, if you hire the wrong manager, it's never the manager's fault, it's the board's fault. Just like I blame the FA now for hiring Southgate. You know, if he goes on to win it, it's in spite of him, because I don't want to see an England team playing that way. And it's the same with Conte and Mourinho, and we were taken back. So I've got issues with that. I've got issues, you know, they've spent a bit of money recently, but I've got issues with the way we spend the money. Is there a transfer strategy? You know, the way they go about it sometimes. I've got an issue with the way they do things, the way they, you know, communication with their fans, with the Spurs supporters, the way they put ticket prices up, things like that. So that's where we stand. It doesn't mean, you know, people can agree and not agree, but it doesn't mean we need to fall out. And I think it's almost systematic of where we are with social media, that everything's so polarized. You know, you're right and I'm wrong, or I'm right and you're wrong, and we're all going to argue about it. We can't just go, no, I get your point, but I disagree, but I understand. I understand fans who think the board are doing a great job, and I understand fans who think the ticket prices are fair. I don't, and there are a lot of fans who now can't go, and we're going to fight for those fans because it's unfair. You know, it's their football club. That's the most important thing to remember. It's our football club, and we should be, you know, we should be allowed to say what we feel, regardless. So yeah, I'm looking. I feel like this is a bit of a, you know, coin the terminology I just used, the dawn of a new era, but more for Spurs supporters than anything else.
Damn right, damn right. Now I'm going to pass over to David because he's got his slideshow ready.
Yes.
We asked people, as you know, Martin, to leave questions that one answer. I've got a feeling some people will be kicking themselves because we did say it's pre-recorded and get your questions in, not think about the questions and put them on the spot immediately. So we've got a few questions, and David, I'm going to hand over to you.
Yeah, so obviously the way this is going to go, I'm going to bring up a slideshow. It's going to knock us all to the left and the question will come up. I'll ask you the question, bring us all back on, and then we'll do that through the questions. So first one is from Andrew Gregory. And it's like kind of like a two-part for you, Martin, is how is the trust relationship with the board at the moment? And the second part is, do you still have meetings with Levy and Cullen?
Yeah, I think the board, the relationship at the moment, up until the season ticket announcement, had been okay. So in the last year, we'd started to have meetings. We're supposed to have 2 meetings a year with the board. Not really had that, but we've had ticketing meetings. We don't have meetings. So again, I know I mentioned this earlier. When I first joined the trust board, we used to have quarterly, was it quarterly? Sometimes 2, sometimes 4, board-to-board meetings at Lily White House with the Spurs board. And that was while the stadium was being built as well. So we'd go there, we'd go to the White House. And Daniel Levy attended those meetings along with Donna Cullen and a few other board members and senior managers. We don't get to speak to Daniel anymore. We pretty much liaise with Donna on everything, which is fine. You know, Donna is a very senior person within the club, and our relationship with Donna is professional. I like to think I understand where she comes from, and a lot of what they've got. They're looking to maximise commercial opportunities, and I feel like they understand where we're coming from. We have, in the last few months, we probably had a few more disagreements, and they had issues with our statement that we released after the ticket price increase, but we went ahead and published it anyway. So, and we've not really spoken to them since then. So we don't really know what the fallout will be. But as I said, I'm at the point now where I think we need to focus. I've got huge respect for them. We'll always be professional. We always want to be in the room. But I think it's far more important for us now to get Spurs fans together than to worry about that relationship, because we're not getting an awful lot out of it. We're being told things rather than consulted. And with the new independent regulator coming in, with the fan-led review and other things, I think there's another way for us to go potentially with the change of government, and we'll see if that's correct.
So basically, you're saying it's basically like the special relationship we have with Real Madrid, where they just take, and then we get.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I felt like the last couple of meetings, the questions we asked for, we kind of got we see your point, but we're not going to do it. And I was like, well, this isn't consultation. This isn't. I'll give you an example. The 694 on categorization games. We asked them to change. So whatever it is, we asked them to change from 6 Category A games to 5 Category A games, and they refused. And we said, how can you? We didn't know who the clubs were, but we assumed it was still Newcastle. We don't. How can anyone justify Newcastle as Category A for Spurs? It's just rubbish. And that was after they qualified for the Champions League last year. So we were assuming, well, now they're not in the Champions League, surely they're not going to be a Category A game. And if you're going to put Newcastle in, surely you take West Ham and Chelsea out because they're not in the Champions League. Or do you put Aston Villa in now because they're in the Champions League? So it's things like that. And they just sort of came out and said, we're keeping it as it is. We just don't get it. Things like that. And so we don't feel they're really listening to us or understanding where we're coming from. So that's where we are at the moment.
There you go. There's Andrew Gregory's question answered. Next one, Dave.
Yeah, next question is from Rich Sman. Do the trust feel like they get enough response, engagement on issues, topics in general from the fan base? If not, do you have any plans to improve that engagement? And do you think having engagement with YouTube channels like this, Tottenham on Tour, is a great way to improve that?
Yeah, I think this is the way to do it. I think we've got to reach out to the fan base, elements of the fan base that don't go onto our website, that don't get our newsletters, that don't follow us on Twitter, that kind of thing, or X as it's called now. So, and I think that's where our change of tactics come from. We get a good response from our members. Like we had a really good turnout to our AGM, but they're a very supportive group, our members, so which is lovely. And don't get me wrong, we'll get criticised by our members, for a number of things, justifiably. The demo that didn't happen and other things, but most of the time they support us. So I would say to Spurs fans, we probably don't we probably don't get enough of a response from them. We've just sent our survey out and that's gone far and wide to the membership, but I think we've only got a few thousand responses. So, which is good on one hand, but we want more because it's about everything: ticketing, save our seniors, food, drink, season ticket prices, football, on the pitch issues, the football, there's, managers, transfers. So there's a whole host of things in there. So we are thinking of ways to improve. I think one of the things I said at the last board meeting, I don't think the board members will mind me saying this, I think we do an awful lot of things because we've always done it. And the world's moved on. And I think we now need to look at a lot of what we do and go, do we still need to do that? Do we need to do something different? You know, so and we're at that point. You know, we've got our party, we've got our summer party at the Antwerp Arms on Sunday. Sandro's coming, so if anyone's watching this, feel free to, you can get a ticket via Eventbrite, but come and meet us. But it's things like that. You know, do we do it in a different way? Do we need to do more? Do we need to do less? Do we need to do other things? So that's what we're looking at. Just, you know, a blank canvas really. And if anyone's got any ideas, email us. You know, you can find info@thstofficial.com and let us know what you think.
How many members, you were just saying, Martin, just so people know, you said only a few thousand have responded. How many to date, like nearest 1,000 or 500 members are of the trust?
It's difficult because we've got like associate members, we've got senior members, and there's around about sort of 8,000 to 9,000 if you include supporters clubs and other areas. So we're up to sort of around about the sort of 9,000. I'll have to check. I can let you know. But it kind of goes up and down. But including the supporters club, there's a fair amount. One of the things I was saying at the last meeting is I'd love to do a meeting with supporters clubs as well, because like you've got all these supporters clubs and we don't liaise with them. So I'd love to think we could do a night where we say, let's get supporters clubs together, let's get fan groups together like Tottenham on Tour and all the podcasts. Let's have a night. You know, we could try and arrange it. We sell the tickets and then it pays for the event, and we're all in a room. We could do something special. So there's so many things we can do when we come together. But yeah, we've got a fair few members, but I think what we're seeing is, you know, the old ways of maybe sending out a newsletter via email and Twitter. Maybe there's a different way for us to engage with our fans now, and we need to look at that, because I don't think the newsletter emails are a bit sort of, you know, noughties, aren't they, rather than, you know, sort of 2024. So we maybe need to look at that and go again.
There we go.
Yeah, just on that point there, Martin, with obviously the newsletters and everything, statement and everything, do you think then, obviously something like this, where the Supporters Trust could have a YouTube or use a channel like ours to do these type of statements so the fans can see it and hear it and ask questions about it as it's being written, rather than just, you know, that situation of an email and then it's like, well, what do I do with it then? I've just read something and that's it. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I'd love to do that. I'd love to be, you know, sort of regular, like when something's happening and you say to me, I can message you and go, look, this is about to happen. We're going to release this statement. I can jump on and I can talk you through what's happened. Because I think the other thing is, it's like now, when we were talking about season ticket prices, season ticket increase, like whenever it was in March, April, whenever they announced it, it's, you know, it's moved on. So if we do it in that week, it's all fresh and we can explain everything. And as you know, I'll be honest. You know, I'll tell you exactly what's going on and what position we're in. But I'd love to do that. I think that'd be great.
If our door's open, if there's anything about to be announced and you want to say, Tottenham on Tour, I need to get on there and do something, done.
Brilliant.
Done.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Next question, Dave.
Yeah, next question is from the Ice Phoenix. I apologize, it's a little stretch, but what were your feelings after the answers given by the club to the written questions last year? Many fans thought the answers were weak or dismissive.
Before you ask this, Martin, I'm just going to say one thing about it. Now, this isn't about the trust. This is about who we're dealing with. Because I say I have my Levy radar on. I know I've got my PhD in Levy bullshit and all that. I come up with all these funny terms or whatever, and people know that I'm normally, when I've got my Levy senses are tingling, I've normally been there or thereabouts. Now, when they finally did respond, and I will admit, I put a tweet out when they didn't respond by the deadline. I think it came a little bit later, or you released it a little bit later. I'm like, surprise, surprise, and then you really made me look stupid, because about an hour later, it was like, there's the questions. I was like, oh, for God's sake. But the first question I remember, and I remember it well, was, what do you see as the immediate to long-term future or whatever the club? And I knew by Daniel Levy's response, or the club's response, within the first sentence, I was like, this is all BS on my side, because the first sentence was, in the past 16 or 17 years, we've qualified for Europe X amount of times. I was like, well, wait a minute. They asked about the present and the future.
Yeah.
and you started this on the pot. So that was my response, but this is about what you and the trust thought of the response.
Yeah, I thought the same. Like, as I said, I work in comms. If I was working at Tottenham and I was given those questions, I wouldn't send those answers out because I thought they were pretty meaningless. You know, as you say, for me, we asked, will the club show its medium and long-term strategy for success? And the people involved, I wasn't chair at the time and I wasn't as heavily involved in this at the time because I was really busy. The guys who, like, they were emailing the club back and forth, asking for the answers, you know, and it was just a bit ridiculous how long it went on for. And to say in the last 20 years, the club has qualified for European competition 17 times, 13 of which are currently successive, including 6 Champions League campaigns. We've now got a manager saying, don't celebrate fourth. So that shows how meaningless that answer is, you know. Yep. So again, it goes to the whole point. If you want to change the mentality of this club, the club needs to change its mentality on the inside, and then it will transmit to fans. So that's the first thing. I mean, that's why I love Ange, because he's come out and he said exactly what every Spurs fan was thinking when they read that. We set our business model in last year's financial results. Then they did the financial announcement, club strategy. You know, we're talking about going forward. You know, what do we want, you know, in terms of football success, develop the growth? And their response was, we've delivered world-class facilities, our stadium debt is on, you know, fine. But it felt like they were just putting out their sort of catalogue, you know, saying, this is what we've achieved. And I get it. Look, I can understand. I'm one of those people, I'll try and see both sides of the story. I understand where some people who if you're critical of the club, I get when people say, look at our stadium, look at what we've achieved, look at the training ground, they've given us this, it's great. They have. However, income's up, so the money they're generating is up. The value of the club is up, so when they sell the club, they're going to make a lot more money, and the debt's tied to the stadium, and the debt's tied to the club, and the club's paying that debt. There's also, you know, we didn't ask for the stadium. The stadium's great, but no Spurs fan. I mean, Spurs were saying, look, we need a big stadium, but no one was saying don't. You know, if you say to a lot of Spurs fans now, £1 billion has gone into that stadium, would you rather have spent 400 million selling it into a St James's Park-like stadium where it goes up and spending 600 million on the pitch the year before we went into that Champions League? I know what most Spurs fans are going to say. Yep. So I get it works. I get it's put us on a different map. But again, the club was saying, as they say in these letters, this stadium will help us challenge the big clubs in Europe. Let me know when that happens, because I know we got to a Champions League final, and that's what people who support will say to me. But what I mean by that is, when I say I don't see us, when they talk about challenging, I see challenging also as a challenging these clubs in the transfer window. When Arsenal do it, we've got bigger income. We've got higher income than Arsenal. We've got more money than Arsenal. Chelsea, why? And I know people will say FFP, but we're the one club who can spend money at the moment because, and I'll take my hat off to the club there. They run it very well. You know, we're never going to be in any fear of FFP. And I agree, that's nice. I'm not saying I want us to go and spend 300 million, 200 million. What I'm saying is, when big players are available, I'm never expecting Spurs to be in the mix. You know, when we're in the we've always been told when Spurs, for us to achieve, you know, to get great signings, we need to be in the Champions League. We need to be in the Champions League. We were in the Champions League. Arsenal weren't. They were signing the same players, and we won't get. You know, Chelsea aren't in the Champions League. Has it stopped Chelsea signing players? So what is clear is actually being in the Champions League to sign players isn't that important. If you're offering the club you're buying from the money, and you're offering the player the wages, then you'll get the player. So it's not really about being in the Champions League, because you can list Man United signings, Liverpool signings when they weren't in the Champions League, Chelsea and Arsenal's when they weren't. So that for me now almost eliminates a lot of those responses, because at that time we were in the Champions League or Europe consecutively. Now we haven't been. So where do we go from now? And so that's it's a long-winded answer, I know, but there's a lot of areas to that. And I think for me, proof that we're heading in the right direction as a club would be us challenging for, you know, we got, I take my hat off, the last window, Mickey van der Ven, Dragerson, we've signed some great players, absolutely brilliant signings. Romero, we've made some fantastic signings. But, you know, when you look, I don't remember us signing a superstar at their prime for a long, you know,
Jurgen Klinsmann.
Yeah. It's, you know, the Paul Gascoigne signing where you sat home and went, oh my God, you know, the Klinsmann signing where you're like, wow, you know, even like Rafa van der Vaart, although he was coming in, you know, when Spurs sign a 27, 28-year-old star, and you go, hello, we're back. That's the catalyst, and that's what the stadium was supposedly about. So,
Yep.
So that's what we're waiting for. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that. I think most Spurs fans will agree, because again, our transfer strategy seems to be buy young, or buy, recently maybe buy good, experienced players that have struggled with their clubs or whatever else. But my other issue with buying young, I hope Archie Gray looks like a great signing.
Correct.
My other issue is, we've signed a lot of those players, and it looks like Archie Gray hopefully getting the first team. But we've also done the thing where we've signed a lot of players on loan. We've signed a lot of younger players. We send them out on loan. They go on loan again, and then we sell them.
Yep.
And I don't want to see that anymore. I don't think anyone wants to see that anymore. And then you see that, Marcus Edwards do really well somewhere else, and then you say then that we're linked with him signing him again. You're just like, oh, maybe we should have just kept him.
There you go. There you go. Next question, Dave.
Yeah, next question now is this one. Why on earth did you go on Talksport and offer to meet Ange for a chat on the North London derby and its history? I'm not going to repeat the rest of it, but yeah. No,
but if I'd gone on to Talksport and I'd demanded a meeting with Ange, it would genuinely be embarrassing, as he says. But as we said, we didn't do that. And look, it was, if I'd known, because you're sitting in a room like this and you can't see anything. I was on my iPad, and then it came in, and then Jim White said, you have asked them, and people can watch it. If you Google it, the whole interview's there. And not once do I say we've demanded a meeting with Ange. Not once do I say we've asked for a meeting with Ange, because the club didn't want us to say that. So at the point, I was just saying why Spurs fans, which we've been through that, and luckily I got a lot more time here than I did with Jim White and Simon Jordan to say why we felt like we did. And my feelings were very much what Goldstein had said a few nights before.
That he was spot on. He was bang on the money,
and that's exactly what I was saying. And it wasn't anti-Ange, and we weren't having a go at him. And then when the real sort of venom came out about demanding a meeting, Martin O'Neill, who I respect massively, but saying, why are you demanding a meeting? If I had fans sort of coming in telling me what I need to think about, but that wasn't the point. But then I never got a chance to come back, so we couldn't do that. But one thing I would have said, as we said in the meeting, in that letter, was to Ange, like, if you remember that the Friday after the City game, a lot of Spurs fans, as I said, we love him, but a lot of Spurs fans felt very disappointed with the mentality inside and outside of the club. And it was a mistake by him. And he did come out on the Sunday and say, I've got it wrong. He said that.
Yeah.
And then it was all forgotten. It's done. But you have to remember, at that time, when I was going to talk, a lot of Spurs fans were really disappointed with what he'd said in terms of the mentality outside the club. And as we've been on before, don't come for us for our mentality, because we deal with the kind of stuff that, people in football, the Spursy tag, the bottlers, the nonsense that we have to put up with, the nonsense of support, of watching another team and hoping our team doesn't win, so our rivals don't win the league. All that crap doesn't happen to other teams. The finishing third in a 2-horse race, all that nonsense. Sissoko handballing the ball in the 11th minute of our biggest game for it's
11 seconds.
11 seconds. Sorry, 11 seconds. Yes. So don't come for the fans. It's not, the mentality isn't down to us. You change the mentality in that changing room and in that boardroom, and then you'll see a change of mentality in the stadiums. But yeah, just sorry to the question. We didn't demand a meeting. We never would. We don't. I'm not big time Charlie. I'm not going to swagger in, send an email, and go, Ange, I want to chat with you about this. Like, who am I? I'm not going to do that. And it sounded ridiculous. And then of course, I just switched my phone off. I saw the meeting. I was just like, for God's sake.
And I will say, I will say, I know Dave personally. I've spoken with him many occasions on Spaces and other things. If you're Dave, you will be watching. If you haven't seen this in its entirety, go back and watch the part where we talk about this, and it's called the what did we call it, Dave? The NLD Ange invitation, where Martin does go into it in great detail about exactly what happened. The most important thing is it's the bottom line of a letter, and if you listen to the letter, it explains a lot more than the last sentence.
I'll speak to the rest of our board. If I can get them to agree, I'll put the letter on my social media, because I don't. It's not critical of Ange in any way, shape, or form. It's more about, and it's not really critical of the club. All it is explaining why Spurs fans feel the way we feel, and the absolute nonsense that we've had to put up with for so long.
There you go.
Just...
Next question, Dave.
Yeah. Firstly, when you were saying Dave, I thought you were talking to me. I was well confused.
And also, I have to say, Dave, when did we go to the bottom, the top?
Oh, this what happens when obviously when I put
right,
up the slides, unfortunately it readjusts.
Okay, I was like,
Yeah,
maybe,
it's just it's
water.
StreamYard. It's StreamYard. Unfortunately, it's StreamYard.
Yeah, I'm gonna don't say that because then you're gonna have people saying Martin Bahaji from the Trust demanded to be on top.
Yeah. we won't say that. We won't show them all the private messages of all the demands you've made, Martin.
What's the next question, brother?
Yeah, next question is from Chris Davidson. What ideas does the Trust have to hold ENIC accountable for sporting achievements?
It's this. I think we've tried everything, and although I've spoken about how we've not really gone into on the field. It's not really our remit to talk about on the field stuff. But I think that could be about to change. But for me, it's about the only way we can get real change is by coming together as supporters did for the European Super League. When Man United, Liverpool, Spurs, Arsenal, Chelsea, we all came together. Football clubs went, wow, we've got a problem here. And when people come together, governments, whoever, they stand up and take notice. If we as a fan base come together and are organised, we can affect real change. The power we have is huge. But we've got to do it. We've got to be on side. We've got to because on the one hand, the one thing I'll always say is one thing I'd never do is I'd never want to do anything inside the state unless things look really bad, like they did with Conte, and you talk about a walkout or whatever else. I wouldn't want to do anything like that to Ange and the team because I feel like we're on the verge of getting that affinity, that feeling of that connection that we had with Pochettino's team. I feel like we're getting that back with this team. Mm-hmm. So I want to see how this season goes, and hopefully we can get it right on the pitch and we can achieve something. Now that doesn't mean all of a sudden that the decisions that the board's made over the years are right, but it just means we can support the team and we can still look to maybe correct things off the pitch, whether that be transfer strategy, the way we recruit, and the way we fired managers in the past, the way the timing of sacking managers, the timing of appointments, the interim managers and that nonsense. As I said, the transfer strategy in terms of what is our transfer strategy. We can still address those points. But I've got a feeling that Ange is already addressing that because I think when you look at the signings we've made, these are players that he identifies. And I hope, and I'll give credit where credit's due. I like to think that the board listened to Ange when he wanted those players like Mickey and others, and they said, if you want that player, we're going to go and get him. And if that happens, long may that continue. And if he's identifying players and he's getting them, and we're not in a position where Antonio Conte is being given Jed Spence and he's like, well, I'm not going to play this guy and things like that. So as long as we're going in the right direction, then we can take a step back and look at it, but we can still be organised and we can still be together and we can still be ready in case things take a turn for the worse. Because as we know with Spurs, you never know what's around the corner.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great answer. Dave, we got more?
Yeah, we've got two left, and we'll start with this one from Ian Meth. I'd like to ask if the Trust made a serious tactical mistake in calling for the board to resign and be replaced by people of the Trust's choosing.
Yeah, so I get it. I don't think we made a mistake calling for the board to resign after the European Super League. I think at that point their position was untenable. We'd actually asked them were there any plans for a breakaway league, and they said no. So that wasn't true, and they'd actually taken us into a situation where we could have been deducted points, could have been expelled from European competition, we could have been thrown out of the Premier League. So what they'd actually done was endangered us as our sporting model and our sporting integrity. So I don't think there was anything wrong with calling for the resign. It was shambolic. It wasn't a good look for any of the clubs involved. And I'm glad they immediately, well, not immediately, but after some persuasion, they backed out and apologised because it's the right thing to do. We didn't ask for them to resign and be replaced by a board of our choosing. Again, it's a bit like the answer to, what are we going to go in and go, right, Levy, out you go. I'll sit my feet on this table. I'll start interviewing people. I'll give myself the job, wouldn't I? So what we said was we thought they should be, and this was, again, we'd spoken to the FSA and a lot of trusts were doing this. So it was almost like, this is the way we're going to structure it. We're going to call on clubs' executive boards to resign, and then we want a structured meeting with the ownership so we can discuss who they're looking at to bring in as a new executive board, so we don't end up in this position again. So we've got, and also so we've got fan representation. And funnily enough, that's kind of happened because we've now got the fan advisory board, and you know it's still in its very early days, but and we've got the fan-led review, and we've got the regulator coming in. So although that hasn't happened from the club, it has kind of happened, and we might hopefully see football fans with more power moving forward, or certainly some football supporters movements with more power. But no, what we said was we'd like them to resign, and then the new replacements to have real sort of supporter focus, or to have supporter accountability, or for there to be, you know, even a Spurs fan on the board, you know, in terms of not necessarily one of us, but you know, a Spurs supporter, well-known Spurs supporter who's, you know, maybe got a bit of money. That was just the idea. So we weren't saying we wanted to select the board. That was not.
If there ever is a board to select, can I be on it?
Oh,
I need to be on that board. I need to be chief negotiator. Oh no, that's mainly getting him out. No, that's what we need to do. But yeah, the final question we have, Dave.
Yeah, the final question is from Ryan McFarland. How do we start to bring this fan base together again? It ain't going to be easy. Big up to you all for starting somewhere, though.
Like Ryan McFarland, he's got the idea, hasn't he? He's that for me is it's not going to be easy, but we've got to start somewhere, and this is it. And I think we've got to look at how we, as I said, how we talk to each other, how we liaise with each other. I think, you know, this could be the beginning of something special, and we can work together. All I'd say to people is, and this is why I'm so grateful for the opportunity to speak on here with you guys, because you're perhaps bringing fans that don't really like the trust. And all I say to you is, like, we're just Spurs fans. That's all we are. We're not arrogant. We're not complacent. We're not thinking we're calling the shots. We don't think we're particularly, you know, the cleverest people in the room. We're just trying to make a difference for Spurs fans, whether that be young Spurs fans, old Spurs fans, overseas Spurs fans living in other parts of the country, Spurs fans who've been thrown out of grounds unfairly, Spurs fans who've had their tickets taken off them, their season ticket taken away from them for whatever reason, disabled supporters. You know, we got a lot of stick when we were trying to get, you know, chips sold on their own in the stadium, but people still come up to me and go, I've got chips in the stadium, it's all I ever wanted. It was just some bloody chips. I didn't want all the other stuff that goes with it. You know, so that we take everything as seriously as we can. And you know, so Ryan, yeah, absolutely. It's not going to be easy, but this is how we do it. We just start talking. Let's do it. Let's be old school. Let's you know, let's leave the social media, sort of the social media warriors and the attacking to another club. I think there are other clubs who do it better than us and deserve it more than us. I think, you know, Spurs fans, we've always been Spurs, and you know, my door, my inbox, my phone is open to any Spurs fan at any point. And you know, if you ever see me, I'll have a pint with anyone. And if anyone's got any criticism, I'm up for hearing it, because I just want to improve what we do and how we do it. And you know, my love for the club is bigger than anything other than you know, than worrying about what people think about me and all that stuff. You know, so yeah. I just want us to move on and to gain some momentum.
So I have to say with that, Martin, is like you said about this reaching people that feel that way about the trust. I think it works both ways, and maybe people from the trust side of things may see people like myself and everyone at Tottenham on Tour and people that are against a certain person wanting change. And like we said, this is what the main part of this show was. And Dave and I and everyone at Tottenham on Tour cannot thank you enough for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Dave, do you have any comments?
Just again, Martin, thank you so much for joining us. And you know, as you, I mean, we shook hands on this virtually type of thing, and we're offering to open our hand to any of the board members as well. If any of them are watching this, you can see we don't bite. We are genuine Spurs fans who like to have a conversation, and we get a lot of people don't like cameras. We get that they don't like to be on camera or don't want to be in that like type of situation. But if there any is, as you can see from this video, we've had a good laugh. We've had a great conversation. Don't be afraid to reach out, you know? And if with this channel, if anyone else wants to come on, feel free to, because that's what we're here for. We are giving you a voice, you're giving us a voice, and we're all mutual in this. We just want better for the club. So yeah, again, thank you, Martin.
Martin,
and one more thing, sorry.
Oh, go on, Dave.
Yeah, I just want to say also to everyone, don't forget to head over to the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust website. And if you want to become a member, you get to get the messages, get everything, and you get to have a conversation yourself if you don't want to do it like this. Sorry, just that last little bit there.
There you go.
Just to promote the trust.
Thank you very much. Cheers. No, thank you both. Thanks for those. But no, I agree. And yeah, if people want to become a member, that'd be great. You don't have to pay. You can just jump on board, and then you can come to our meetings, and you can stand for election as well. The best way to make a change, if you want to, is to stand for election, because we won't be doing it forever. But no, I agree, and completely. And I'd say to any of our members watching this, if anyone doesn't agree with us sort of liaising with the Levy Out group, if you like, I'd say, look, as I said, we're Spurs fans who care, and I've got nothing but respect for anybody that tries to take a stand for what they believe in, and it's for me, it's more about us understanding each other and working for a common goal, and that's just that. The common goal is we want to see all fans being able to get access to our stadium at prices they can afford. I want them to see, we want to see fans not being priced out of the game. We want to see successful football on the pitch. And every now and again, we'd love a manager that will play, and I think we've got one, will play a strongest team in the Cups. And who knows, this year it might be our year, which would be bloody lovely.
Oh, I know that. I know. I mean, what better way to end with that famous way? The Spurs motto: "There's always next year." But Martin, thank you so much, and thank you for your insights from the trust. Dave, it's been a wonder. It's been a pleasure.
It has.
It's been a wonderful pleasure. Let's say that.
Yeah, that's it. There you go.
Listen, the stream will be out, and I hope you enjoy it. Good night, everyone, or good morning.
Peace out.